The following program is presented by the HTM Podcast Network.
Welcome to another episode of Turnbuckle Talk, presented by the Hitting the Marks Podcast Network and in association with IndiePW.com. Turnbuckle Talk is sponsored by CollarandElbowBrand.com, where you get 10% off when using promo code JKPodcast. Turnbuckle Talk is also partnered with Phoenix at FNXFit.com, where you get 15% off all your health supplements simply by using promo code TBTalkPod. Follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter by searching at TB Talk Pod. Listen on Podbean, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere you catch your favorite programs. And now, pro wrestling fanatics, are you ready? Here are your hosts, Mighty Joe Morin and Karl Karufel.
That's right, everybody. My name is Karl Karufel, and I am alongside the curator of topics, Mighty Joe, and we got a banger for you today. So join us and welcome to Turnbuckle Talk.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's an interesting and rather exciting time, actually, to be a fan of professional wrestling, because it's been a while, man, since there's been this kind of buzz around the professional wrestling world, you know, across different promotions. In the WWE, not so much per se, but it seems like the majority of the buzz happening outside of the WWE, which is very, very cool. And, you know, there's a fair amount to cover here. Not necessarily a long list of topics, but there's a fair amount to these topics themselves. But yeah, man, just before we get into the bulk of it, just it's like I said, man, it's exciting to see even some people that have been away from wrestling for a little while. It seems like they're kind of getting pulled back in a little bit, which is I'm all for that.
I definitely am as well. Speaking of, you use that keyword of buzz. There's a buzz happening. Yeah. Take a look at the ticker down below, people. That is why we named this episode Buzzing on Speculations. You also mentioned there about fans that have maybe not watched so much, kind of coming back to it. I'm going to have to get a hold of my friend Ryan here. I know that he was watching Game Changer Wrestling Night 2, and he posted a photo showing that he actually had a friend over that was not necessarily a professional wrestling fan, and I want to get a hold of him and find out what that friend thought. We're talking... Hey, go ahead.
Yeah, for those wondering, Ryan, because we know a few Ryans around here. He's been on this podcast before. It's Ryan Knight from Nights to the Squared Circle. I saw the post as well, and he was actually apparently a friend of his and somebody who actually has never watched wrestling before. And what a doozy to show a first-time viewer some Game Changer Wrestling. I mean, we'll get to one match in particular, but yeah, man, that's like I said, you know, company-wide, like through all these promotions, it seems like there's a real buzz. I mean, there's a little bit with WWE, you know, thanks to Mr. Cena. There's a little bit of buzz there, but the majority of it does seem to be focused around things that are not WWE. So it'll be interesting, you know, come SummerSlam time and whatnot, to see how much interest there is still in that as opposed to everything else that's kind of going on. So...
There is still a little bit of buzz, partially with WWE. I mean, we're talking a couple of names from the WWE that are creating quite a buzz right now. We're looking at Daniel Bryan and CM Punk. News has been coming out. I've created another article that may be dropping very soon on lovewrestling.ca. Hopefully, maybe Wednesday, Thursday, I have an article that's going to be dropping for you. Spoiler alert. Yes, I may be doing a weekly column over at lovewrestling.ca. I've thrown it up to the promoter of the company, so we'll see what happens with that. Yeah. Buzz happening all over the place, whether it's dirt sheets or credible sources alike. We have been having buzz, and the buzz right now is that Daniel Bryan and CM Punk have joined the team over at All Elite Wrestling. Joe, this is absolutely insane, and never did I think that we would get both of these stars at the same time. So let's run through here quickly. I want you to give me some pros and some cons of these two guys going to All Elite Wrestling.
Before we get into that, because I have a feeling, looking at our numbers right now, that there may be a few of our Love Wrestling brothers that are listening, and I've heard me say something before, and I want somebody who's maybe a little bit more savvy and can go back into the archives not too long ago and find out, because I said that, I believe I said for a specific show that was happening, but I said that if either Daniel or Punk were to show up, that I would eat my shorts on the show. So if somebody can go back and find out exactly what I said so that I can know what or if I'm going to have to do that. So if somebody can go and do that, maybe Josh or Zach, who's good at doing that kind of stuff, find out and let me know, because I may end up having to do that, and I just want to get mentally prepared to do so. But yeah, man, just like every legitimate credible source out there, the dirt sheets, actual websites alike, all saying that essentially done deal for both guys.
We're not just talking Meltzer saying this stuff.
Not just Uncle
because,
Dave.
Well, that's
Else.
50-50 with Meltzer.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Oh,
yeah,
my God. Yeah. I couldn't believe the amount of credible sources that were actually talking about this. Give me some pros, Joe. What do you think some pros are of these two guys going to All Elite?
The drawing power, number one. I mean, when it comes to Daniel, but even more so with CM Punk, just that name recognition. Now, there's a few ways to go about this. What I don't want to see happen are these debuts happening too close together or at the same time, and to not go overboard in the span of 3 or 4 months. To just be okay, let's match Daniel up with Kenny and just do all of these big matchups, because the temptation is going to be to want to do that, to hot shot book the show and then to fizzle out, right? Very similar to what WCW fell into that trope of doing that, right? So immediately that comes to mind. So again, there's some pros and cons there. The big pro is you have two of the most recognizable names from current day WWE now shifting over to AEW. That's a big plus you cannot ignore. You can't ignore it. The big con, though, Karl, at least in my humble opinion, you may or may not agree with me on this, but we are starting to see, first of all, to debunk a certain thing. I don't know if I've posted on our site, or I think I've mentioned it, that our friend Mr. Michael Jargo, who is very much a numbers and a stats person, clued me into something, because a lot of people, I was even guilty of this at a certain point, of saying AEW is just signing all of these WWE people. They've only signed, if these two were to be confirmed, that would make 16 people out of 98 wrestlers that the WWE has let go. So that is a minor fraction of that number. Impact has signed a fair amount of those people, and WWE's inside some Impact people. So it's been a pretty equal back and forth, actually, when you actually look at the actual numbers instead of just a emotional opinion that you're giving out, which a lot of people have been doing. Myself, guilty of that as well. Now,
yeah, I mean, that's something that a lot of people have been guilty of. And I do believe you did share that on the Turnbuckle Talk page, which, I mean, if you go back, I believe it was a couple weeks ago, you can see that, and you can see some information with a graphic on that.
Yeah, and then just the big con, though, I think, is this AEW roster. Not, like I said, not just former WWs. There's lots of, and that's the thing. The roster is getting really, really big and bloated. I don't know what the actual number is, but if you were to include everybody that they use on Dark and Elevation and this Rampage, I think is another show, we're starting to, I think, spread ourselves a little thin here. And if you're going to bring in these two names, you know that they're going to want to use them as much and as often as possible, which I totally agree with. If you're going to bring Daniel Punk, you've got to use them. But what about all of this talent, even some of this homegrown talent from the Nightmare Factory and like all this kind of stuff? What are you going to do with them? They're going to be relegated to Dark or Elevation, the YouTube shows. They're not going to have as much time to get that exposure on the national television show. That I think is the big con, is that you're going to alienate, and a lot of your lower card people are going to get jaded, and they're going to be like, okay, so we went from one company that did this to us, now we're at this other place where we had all these kind of promises and stuff going on, and now we're running into the same issue again. That I think is the big con.
It definitely is. That's my thoughts exactly as well. I mean, we're going to have all this talent that's there. And, of course, the bigger names are going to be the ones that are showcased, obviously, right? So we're going to be showcasing CM Punk. We're going to be showcasing Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson, however he decides to come into the company. Yeah. And these other stars are going to be kind of lost in translation, which, unfortunately, some of them kind of already are. Another big con that I think... no pun intended. Another big con that I think coming from AEW right now is that there seems to be so many little factions and cliques all over the place within the company. And that's really, I think, taking away from individual talent. And I'm afraid that they're going to take CM Punk or Daniel Bryan and just make them the leader of one of those, or give them some more people and just have another little 3 or 4 person team.
See, cliques and factions and stuff like that. I'm kind of the line of thought that I think that, I think that they're a good thing, and I think, frankly, there should be more of them. But that's a separate debate that I think that we could have on another date. But the thing is, like I just said, like it's just becoming a little too much of these people, and like some of these mid-level people, like even guys like Dustin Rhodes, like he's going to get kind of overshadowed by these kind of guys.
I mean, Dustin, yes, 100%. Like, I mean, he's a little bit of a veteran. I mean, he definitely is a veteran in the business. I'm looking at guys like Hangman Page, right? Like, a superb talent like Hangman Page is going to get lost by the wayside. And it angers me that that's going to happen. I hope it doesn't. Yeah. But if it does, I'm going to be so ticked off over that because, I mean, what are you doing? He's one of the best that you've got in the company.
What you'll have to do is you're going to have to become even more like WWE. You're going to have to come up with a second main show to give your talent, your roster, something to do. Or you're going to have to, and they may end up having to do this too, that one or both of those shows is going to have to become a 3-hour show to give these guys and girls something to do. And that they're going to start to become what they said right from the get-go, right from that go-home moment after the cameras and everything went off at the original All In. This is going to be something for you guys. They really pitched it as, we're going to listen to you guys. We're going to give you exactly what you want. We're not going to be like everybody else. They're falling into that trap of becoming exactly what they said they weren't going to be. That's, you guys are the buzz. Love you guys. Love you too, John. For those who are aware, John Bowers, that is Pluggo from Between Two Beards. Make sure and check out that show, because that is an excellent show that I have the honor to produce every single week. 11 episodes in already. You guys are awesome.
They definitely are. Love those guys so much. We're talking about loving things right now, and not just talking about Love Wrestling, that, yes, you can hear Turnbuckle Talk over on lovewrestling.ca as well, but we're talking a love of professional wrestling and a love of dream matches. Now, consider we get CM Punk and Daniel Bryan both coming in as singles competitors into the company. Give me at least one dream match that you would want to see, Joe, between each new guy. What do you got?
I honestly think that probably the most intriguing matchup with these two guys is actually against each other somewhere down the line. And again, I think that you don't do it too soon, too. I mean, this is something that you really build between these two guys, because these guys have a history together as well outside of even WWE. So there's a lot that you can capitalize and play off of as well. Our friend John here saying Punk versus Cody, definitely an interesting one. And then Daniel Bryan versus Jungle Boy, that is a very good one as well. And of course, CM Punk versus Daniel Bryan as well. I think that's the really intriguing, and that's one that you leave for possibly, that Chicago show, all out, right? You, if you could find a way, and as crazy as absurd as this sounds, especially if you could co-promote with New Japan Pro Wrestling went on and do another Madison Square Garden show. If you could do Punk versus Daniel for AEW in the Garden, that's money, dude. That's money.
Oh, yeah.
That's money.
That would blow the roof off of the place. Never mind any New Japan Pro Wrestling star that would come over, which would be a buzz in itself. I mean, we're talking those two guys.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I really think that the key with these guys is you debut them separately.
Yes.
Don't do them too close together. Like I say, wait a month between each guys, maybe even more. Yeah. And then if you want to do something together, then you slowly build over time where you have them messing with each other, however which way they want to do it, and then it finally then resulting in then their paths actually crossing, and then leading to a match, like I said, at a marquee show. That's just how you do it.
I definitely want to see it go a little bit differently. Yes, in the end, I think that the two of them having a match together is 100% going to be needed, but I want that one debuts, and then a month or so later, the other one debuts, but then we don't have any interaction between the two of them for at least 6 months after the second one debuts. Let's give them both a chance and an opportunity to go out there and have a little bit of a feud, whether it's 1 or 2 feuds over a 6-month period with a couple of other stars.
Yep.
From the company. So, I mean, I mentioned Hangman Page, 100%. Daniel Bryan, Hangman Page, love it. I would absolutely go bananas to see that. And then CM Punk and MJF. The two of the best of the best on that microphone. Can you imagine the promo wars that would happen between the two of them? After those have happened, then let's bring them together and have a feud for a couple of months and then have a big show.
I think that two of the more intriguing matchups would be actually, with working with AEW, this will give these guys opportunities to do stuff with New Japan as well. Like I had mentioned, I think two, one for Punk and one for Daniel, I think would be really interesting for Daniel. Him against Hiromu Takahashi would be really, really interesting. And for Punk, Minoru Suzuki. Suzuki versus CM Punk. That would be, I'd pay just taking my money now.
Yeah, I mean, you could take any star from New Japan. I mean, you take Okada, right? Okada versus either one of those two.
Yeah.
Money.
Yeah.
Money.
Naito
right
as well.
Yeah.
El Desperado.
Right.
Despy and Daniel would be really, really good. If you put Daniel in the best of Super Juniors, that'd be really, really cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it would be.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, just amazing stuff right now. And of course, everyone, this is stuff that we are just speculating about. This is stuff that is we don't know that this is going to be happening. This is just dream matches that we would love to see and how we would like to see them go. Dream matches. This next one is not something that I ever thought about as a dream matchup, but Game Changer Wrestling pulling out all the stops at Homecoming Night 1. Dude, I have watched this matchup probably about 3 or 4 times now because it's just insane in the membrane. Yes, I just dated myself there. You're welcome. We're talking Matt Cardona versus Nick Gage for the GCW Championship. Oh, dude, What the hell?
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, I didn't just watch this match. I watched the entire show a couple times back. Now, the bulk of the earlier card, like 7/8 of the show, not so much that it didn't do anything for me, but I just wasn't really aware of the talents too much. And I mean, we all, the main event, the last matches, we were obviously all there and tuning in for, right? And nothing against those other guys. Those matches were fine for what they are. But I mean, this thing with Cardona and Gage, like, this is just like, pardon the expression, just batshit crazy. That's about the best way I can do it, to keep it as PG-13 as I can get. Because it really, that's the thing, Karl. This is really hard to talk about without crossing over into the TV-18 mature R-rated side of things. Because, I mean, just... Now, I've been very vocal that I am not, per se, a fan of the super hardcore wrestling, which this is and clearly was. And obviously we knew that's what we were in for. Like traditional hardcore matches, like that we've seen in WWE and ECW and stuff like that. Cool, I can get on board with that. But when we start doing, shards of light tubes into each other's foreheads and pizza cutters and chairs pointing the wrong direction too much and stuff like that, just it's like, plexiglass. Like, I get that there's an audience for that kind of stuff. I get it. Mind you, it's a very niche audience.
Yes.
Just because a relatively small crowd is going bananas doesn't mean that's the best way I can kind of put this without pissing off the hardcore wrestling audience. But I in this case, I literally mean the hardcore wrestling audience. I think that a little too much is being made of this. It's cool for what it is inside of what it is. But in the large scope of things in professional wrestling, it's a blip on the radar. Let's be honest with ourselves when it comes to this. I get it that everybody's losing their shit, for lack of a better term. I get it. It's a cool moment. Absolutely. Like when Cardona won that match and like the fans are throwing stuff into the ring and stuff like that.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. For those who haven't seen, I mean, it's not a spoiler because it's happened now, so it's fair game. There's a particular reason, Karl, and to focus on that particular thing, throwing like full bottles of water and stuff, like there's a reason why you don't see this in other places, because places have common sense and have rules for this kind of stuff. Like, I get it, letting your audience do what they kind of want to do, but at the same time, we need to have some certain safety things in place to protect not only the wrestlers, the referee, the kid ref, Chris Levine, by the way, refereeing that match. It was good to see him doing things. But I mean, that turned into a really dangerous thing there. And I mean, there were spots where like they were throwing each other into the crowd. Even earlier in the match, like Nick actually had to like apologize to a girl in the crowd and saying kind of like, you're okay, having essentially break kayfabe there. Yes. It's a tricky tight rope to walk when you do this kind of thing, and this is going to cross over into something that I want to touch on, and because you had mentioned as well, and some other people that I know and respect have brought this up too. Michael Jargo and I talked about this the other day with bringing Nick Gage onto national television to do something with one of your top stars over there. What's the best way I can put this? I'm saying that a lot in the show. I can almost call this episode, how can I put this? Putting Nick Gage on live television. I'm going to get some heat for this. I think it's a mistake, Karl. I think it's a mistake, because unless you really put a leash on this guy, you're going to have problems, because Nick Gage doesn't have a filter, and he's going to say what he wants to say. And I think that, with all the momentum that AEW has, I feel like this maybe not necessarily could derail things, but you need to tread carefully with Nick Gage. I know with what they've been doing with Dark Side of the Ring and that stuff is great. That's fantastic. Telling the story, that's cool. Yeah. But with Nick, you get what you get. And you got to know that going into it. And you got to say, hey, this isn't to use the Jim Cornette line, this isn't one of your mud show type of things here. You're on live national broadcast television going to millions of homes. You gotta tone it down a bit. And that's the thing with Nick Gage. He doesn't tone down anything.
No.
So that's why, like, cool, but at the same time, very, very, very risky for this promotion to be doing this, especially at this time. I think that the timing is wrong, and nothing against Nick Gage, but I don't think that this is the platform for him. I'm just going to be brutally honest.
I think this is good for Game Changer Wrestling. We've already seen a little bit of limelight with the Dark Side of the Ring series, just as you had mentioned.
Yep.
A little bit of limelight going towards Game Changer Wrestling because of Nick Gage,
That's great.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
But
now, AEW is working with all these other companies. So, the hardcore, the shock-core professional wrestling fans, okay, yes, it's a niche little thing. Okay,
it very much is.
But, and as you mentioned, okay, it's very niche. And ECW was as well, though. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, ECW started out the same way. Maybe not as violent as Game Changer Wrestling has been, but they started out the same way. A very small niche market for them, and then they got some television exposure, which I think is what we're pretty much seeing right now with Nick, who's the face of that company. Yeah. No denying it. He is the face of that company. I do want to mention on that show, the Game Changer Wrestling Homecoming Night 1, it was pretty cool to see one Marco Stunt there and two Cold Scorpio.
Yeah,
that was awesome. That was awesome.
I'm a big fan of Two Cold Scorpio. Actually, at a local promotion a little while back, I got to actually be backstage and shoot a bit of a promo with him. That was a blast. The dude's a riot, and he's a very. But what's the best way I can talk about Two Cold? He's a very genuine, and another one of these guys. You get what you get with him, but the majority of it is just very cool, and there's a bit of an aura going around it. I digress.
So, Nick Gage coming over to AEW to face Chris Jericho. I think you're correct. The timing on this is wrong, especially considering we have now got this matchup that happened between Nick and Cardona. Cardona going over, winning that championship, all the rioting that happened afterwards, and now all of a sudden, we're going to have to see Nick Gage, who was just beaten by, let's put it out, and I love the guy, don't get me wrong, but let's put it out there. Zack Ryder beat Nick Gage. Zack Ryder beat the king of death matches.
No.
Zack Ryder. Okay,
I was shocked that he put him over. I didn't think Nick would put him over.
I didn't think so either.
Not in a million years.
But now, and we all know that this is how it's going to go, Nick is going to lose again in All Elite Wrestling to Jericho.
How else can you book it? How it's you're stuck in a corner with that. You can't put Nick over, and you can't get him to. You can't.
No,
you can't.
It's true. You can't now.
Yeah.
There's no way that you can do that now. And we know that pretty much that's the way it was going to be anyways. But the timing of it is just so off. Had this happened a week before, Jericho beating Nick Gage on All Elites, and then him going to this Game Changer, and then, Jericho softened him up for Cardona, I could have understood and gotten behind that. But I can't get behind this now. But I do have to say that I think Nick Gage being on AEW is good for the business of Game Changer Wrestling, and I think he as well understands that and is going to mind his P's and Q's and ensure that he is doing the right thing business-wise for Game Changer Wrestling.
We'll see, man. Like this last episode of Dynamite, minus the women's match with Britt Baker and Nyla Rose, which I think was a bit of a miss. Britt actually getting injured on that match, by the way. And then Nick kind of coming out, I thought also was a little, because the rest of the show was like beautifully booked and set up. Like whoever went about doing that, I thought that was like almost a perfect show. Like that was a really, really good episode of Dynamite that has me wanting to tune in this week.
Right.
And therein lies a bit of the problem, where like AEW, they still haven't defined what kind of wrestling promotion they are. And this stuff with Nick Gage doesn't help. We're all over the map here with this company. They need to pick a direction and stick to your guns and go in that direction. But find a direction while you still can, because we're all over the friggin' map here. All too many different kinds of matches and whatnot. Like I said, just the way they did Dynamite, keep going in that direction, and we're good. But just all over the place, like especially when they would have the Bucks open and just kind of like do everything in that first half an hour, and then then you have your second match and they do everything, and then you have and then you have different type of matches thrown in there. Just like it's like there's no clear direction. That this last episode of Dynamite, it's like each match kind of flowed into the next one, and the next match flowed into the next one, and so on and so forth. That's how a wrestling show should go. It shouldn't just feel like a bunch of cut up things that don't coincide together. That's the point that I'm trying to make. It's like WWE programming, right? It's not even cohesive with their own brand, with NXT. And then you have all these other companies that are like somewhat cohesive to a certain extent. There's still some wonky things, but they kind of keep it cohesive between each other. And these are companies that only occasionally talk to each other.
Right.
Which is bizarre in itself. But like I said, with AEW, pick a direction and go with it. Daniel and Punk coming in, fantastic. But like I said, use it sparingly, and don't just like go nuts in those first 3 months, because then you've done too much. Then you have nowhere to go from it.
I think when it comes to that part of the issue here is you brought it up actually a little earlier in this episode. AEW said that they are going to listen to their fans. So how can you really have a clear direction when this group of fans wants this, and this group of fans wants this, and this group of fans wants that? So you have to be bouncing all over the damn place to be able to give everybody what they want. Yeah. Now, I do agree. If they continue on with what they have been doing with Dynamite over these last couple of weeks, that is a good direction. Continue with that, because you are then going to show the fans kind of what they want. You're going to kind of pull them into that mindset and thinking of, hey, oh my God, they gave us that. Oh yeah, I want to see more of that now. And then their mindset's going to change a little bit. I think that's 100% the right thing to do, is continue on with this momentum that they have right now. Especially if they continue to work with these other companies, some of these smaller companies like Game Changer Wrestling, as we end out this topic here. Game Changer Wrestling really has made a huge name for itself now, just because of Cardona, Nick Gage, as well as this Dynamite showing that's going to be happening. And what remains to be seen too, like when it comes to drawing in a new audience or drawing in more people with Game Changer, that's going to be the really telling thing. Are people going to tune in? Like, seeing that, there might be that initial charm, but then with ultra hardcore wrestling, it's you either really, really like it or like you want to barf on your screen. For me, right. I'm kind of the latter, right? That's going to be the test. Are the fans going to continue to dig what they see? Remember, this is the same company that brought us Invisible Man versus Invisible Stan. This is the same company that booked on shows Superhuman, the idiot YouTube star. I didn't even really want to say names. I don't like giving him publicity. But let's keep in mind, this company isn't... We're not talking top notch here. Let's just be brutally honest. They've done some cool stuff, but they've done a lot of dumb stuff too. Putting that out there. Putting that out there into the universe. Right. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take a commercial break. I'm going to play for you a couple of really cool commercials that I really like that are in our repertoire, and that's going to give me an opportunity to have a drink of my non-sponsored Dr. Pepper, which Mighty Joe actually has as well in his cup his coffee mug actually has Dr. Pepper in it. So stay tuned. We will be coming back at you with some great stuff. Our normal good 3 things. We're going to be coming at you with that. So stay tuned.
Fall is in the air. That means pumpkin spice lattes. That means pumpkin spice everything. Ugg boots, yoga pants. God, I hope I can fit into mine this season. Scarves. And baseball tees. Hoodies! Not yet, but soon. The metal tee. No need for any cease and desist here. And hats. Stop by collarandelbowbrand.com today and get your fall drop immediately. It's fall, y'all.
collarandelbowbrand.com.
You'll be the coolest person in Starbucks whether you're wearing yoga pants and Ugg boots or not. In fact, I like to go to Starbucks without the bottoms on all the time and just wear my collar and elbow brand type shirts. I immediately get my coffee and go.
Hi, my name's Barry Radcliffe. You might recognize me from such films as The Longest Ride or Ted 2. Now, as a successful actor, I have 2 planes, a supermodel wife, countless exotic cars, and a ton of cash. You might think it couldn't get any better than this, but you'd be wrong. For only $4.99, you could get OVWWrestlingNetwork.com. That's OVWWrestlingNetwork.com for only $4.99. Now, will your life be as good as this? No. Will it be better? Yes, and I guarantee that. That's not valid anywhere. OVWWrestlingNetwork.com is only $4.99. Tomorrow's yesterday is today. Prices so low, they're insane. What was bang for your buck? Well, so do I. At OVWWrestlingNetwork.com, it's only $4.99 a month. In between excitement, me too. OVWWrestlingNetwork.com is only $4.99 a month. You get that incredible value. She cost me $17 million, and I loved it. Want a real value? OVWWrestlingNetwork.com. It's only $4.99. That's a price so low. Well, it's insane.
And welcome back, everybody, to this edition number 229 of Turnbuckle Talk. Now, you may be thinking, why the hell did they play a commercial about fall? Well, we played it because it's one that we don't get to play very often, and because it included, at the very end there, you saw Mr. Al Snow put on the exact same hat, well, exact same styling, that I am wearing every single week on this program. Amazing stuff over there, collarandelbowbrand.com. Make sure you use our promo code, because you know what? Our promo code, it's JK Podcast. That's going to get you 10% off your entire purchase. Brand new clearance merchandise, doesn't matter.
Yeah, man, and that offer code even tells you like how long we kind of been at this, because that is actually based off of what we originally called this podcast, which is going back. I've lost track of the time.
I definitely have lost track as well myself. I can tell you, though, that we were the first sponsored Collar and Elbow branded podcast. So happy and so thankful for that. Anything big that happens is always something that's brought forth to the people as soon as they possibly can. Unfortunately for us, we're only here once a week with you. So right now we're going to take a look at some... That's right. We're going to take a look at some breaking news. I sincerely hope that Mighty Joe has something more for us besides what I had that Mighty Joe kind of already talked about and alluded to. So yeah, I mean, I've been kind of trying to take a look and dig and see if there is anything real breaking news. I think the biggest thing, and you had mentioned it, and I'm going to mention it just again really quick, is Britt Baker on Dynamite last week did get injured in her matchup with Nyla Rose. So, I mean, it's unfortunate, but I mean, in this business, it happens. It definitely does. And we just wish Britt Baker the best, and hopefully we get to see her back on our screens very soon. Yeah. Mighty Joe, please tell me you have at least one more thing.
Well, man, like the bulk of our stuff that we've talked about could arguably be called breaking news, to be perfectly honest with you. So, but for me, like, you have kind of nailed the one thing. There's some other stuff that isn't really worth mentioning. I mean, I guess that there was a house show that Carmella, I guess she almost, she had a wardrobe malfunction, but continued the match and managed to keep those puppies in there, which is an accomplishment in itself. I can't speak from experience because I'm a man. But and I'm not a wrestler. But other than that, man, I mean, like, we've covered a lot of the breaking news, like I said, just our main topics. And like I said, over the coming weeks and months, there's going to be lots more, because I have a feeling that these two individuals aren't going to be the only thing, and AEW is not going to be the only company. I think there's going to be a lot of movers and shakers. Probably maybe even some people that come back to WWE, because there's rumors of that too, like guys like Braun Strowman and whatnot. Yeah. The Rock, yeah. I mean, if you're going to bring Cena back, I mean, The Rock will not be far behind. But yeah, man, we'll see how it kind of goes. But I mean, breaking news, like I said, this episode is largely breaking news in itself. So,
for any time that there is big and serious breaking news, we usually post that on our social media pages at TB Talk Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You talk about Carmella there. I have to give actually big props to Carmella for going through and doing that and continuing and finishing on with that matchup without full incident, because I'm sure everything is taped anyways, so it wasn't too big of an issue. The front is probably taped and the back unclasped on her outfit. Okay, so we saw her back. Yay! Awesome. So, yeah, that is that.
You know what? I will say, though, just as a 40-year-old heterosexual male wrestling fan, it would have been nice to catch a glimpse. I'll just say that.
Go back and watch the video. You might see something from that matchup. Brings us over to our next topic. This one here is a doozy. Just to give you a little bit of a backstage look at this, Mighty Joe and I never actually discuss this prior. Yeah. So I don't know what his pick is. He doesn't know what my pick is. We never have discussed this prior. So we're just going to go right into it, people. Here is our Match of the Week segment. As Mighty Joe finishes off his Dr. Pepper, I'm going to let him go first.
I'm out now, unfortunately.
And he's out. He's out. He's done. Mighty Joe, you go first. Give me what your pick is for Match of the Week.
Yeah, man, I think at very best it's been a long time since I've actually picked a match from AEW Dynamite. I mean, it's actually probably been since they actually debuted that I may have had my Match of the Week from them. For me, like, this was a no-brainer pick for Match of the Week this week. And this match has been largely praised throughout the internet wrestling community, the dirt sheets, and credible minds alike. And I am, of course, referring to that main event from Dynamite for the IWGP United States Championship between Jon Moxley and Lance Archer. Damn. This is how you end off a show, and this is how you send the fans home happy. Right, we had Lance Archer in his hometown winning that championship. Right. WWE, I'm talking to you now. Right, you bring back Keith Lee, who has been highly anticipated to come back. He debuts back in his hometown, and you have him lose. Stupid. Stupid is the only word that I can pick. Right, this is not how you do this sort of thing. especially being away as long as he was. Unless you're trying to
Right.
send kind of some petty statement to said individual, which then just makes you look really bad. But I digress on that.
Yeah.
They put Lance Archer over at the end of that show in his hometown, and they had a killer match together. I mean, that's just pro wrestling 101 of how you book and how you end off a show, and you send your fans home happy, and you have them anticipated and willing to come to the next show. That's just what you do, and that's what they accomplished, and I will give props to them for doing so.
What happened after that matchup, please?
After they went off the air, Mox gave Lance Archer props too, right? Send the fans home even happier, right? Just well done. And I
didn't have anybody else hop into that ring?
I only heard what happened there. I didn't see or anybody else coming in. I only saw the audio, That doesn't make any sense. I only heard the audio. I didn't see the actual video. Who was it that hopped in there as well?
I don't know. I was just asking the questions. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else got in there, unfortunately. So.
Okay, no big deal. I'm just asking questions.
But
that's all.
The match, absolutely incredible. If you haven't seen it, just go watch it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Mine's going to be quick, simple, and easy. Yeah. That matchup from Game Changer Wrestling. Dude.
Cardona and Nick.
Yeah, Cardona and Nick Gage. I have not seen such a hype over matchup in such a long time as this was. I have not seen and felt that excitement for professional wrestling from fans in such a long time. This was absolutely insane. Using people out in the stands, having, somebody hold a chair, and it's just craziness that happened. I am not always a huge fan of that deathcore style professional wrestling, but this I could tolerate, and this I watched, and this I was okay with. This was good because of all the hype that was surrounding it. I was stoked, so happy, so happy.
The crushed light tubes and the pizza cutter I could do without, though.
Yeah, well, the pizza cutter, you got to understand, is like Mr. Socko. Right? Mick Foley had Mr. Socko. Nick Gage has the pizza cutter.
Yeah.
Sandman had the kendo stick. Nick Gage has the pizza cutter.
I get it.
It's just that prop that's used. That's it.
I got you.
Yeah. So we got something even better coming up here for you people. This is something that, this is a classic. This is something that everybody absolutely loves. We continue to get people messaging us and talking to us and saying, hey, how about this for a segment, or how about that for a segment? And sometimes when we have a good one that comes from people, we will definitely use it. So if you have something that you want for this next segment, and you know what that segment is, but we're going to get to it in just a moment. If you've got something for that segment, message us on any of our social media accounts, and we will take a look and see if it is good enough. Everything's always good enough for us here at Turnbuckle Talk because we absolutely love the interaction with you all. But yeah, let us get to our Showstopper segment. This is absolutely amazing. We have essentially been talking about this the entire show, and I mean, we can even maybe just even sum up this entire thing with this here, but we're going to go through our thoughts on the buzz and energy surrounding professional wrestling currently and how we think companies can capitalize on this and keep the ball rolling. I'm going to throw out something here super quick firsthand. This buzz and this excitement has me stoked. Just like I said, I have not seen a crowd interaction like that in such a long time from that Game Changer Wrestling show. We have not seen a professional wrestling show like Dynamite that has been good from bell to bell, open to close, curtain jerk to main event. We have not seen that in such a long time, and it's all slowly starting to build back up to the days of, I'm not even going to use the word that era is, because I don't want to even associate this with that, because it's nothing like the Attitude Era. It definitely is not, but we're getting that same kind of excitement and that same kind of build around all of this. It is absolutely amazing, and I think that if these smaller companies just continue to work with each other on a level that they have been right now, we're going to continue to see more professional wrestling fans checking out more product being viewed is going to be more merchandise being sold. More merchandise sold means more, time that people are going to be going out to live events, more live events that are there. The more buzz in Hollywood is going to happen, and the more buzz that's happening out there, the more pop culture is going to notice. The more pop culture notices, it's just going to blow up again. I'm going to stop talking now because I need a drink from all of that. Mighty Joe, give me your thoughts on all of this. How do you think things can be capitalized and continue on rolling?
This is interesting because there's a lot of different ways that I can approach this. I'm going to try and approach it from as many directions as I possibly can. One thing that right off the hop that you'll notice that a lot of the hype and a lot of the really kind of cool stuff that we've been mentioning is not coming from the WWE. That I think it is a big deal that WWE now clearly needs to start paying attention. Up until this point, and they've said it themselves, that we do not see AEW as competition. That is clearly not the case anymore. The AEW is now clearly legitimate competition. Fight me if you disagree with me on that. The other thing here too with this is, as cool and as lightning in a bottle as this Cardona cage thing is, let's be perfectly honest with each other here, Karl, and everybody listening and watching. The majority of the buzz is coming from this potential with Daniel and Punk. Okay, the majority of the buzz is coming from that. The stuff with Cardona and Cage, very, very cool. But remember, this is a niche audience. The visual there kind of betrays the actual numbers. Let's be perfectly honest with each other. Now, the other catch with this, with capitalizing on this, is, like I said, with bringing Daniel and Punk in, great, but you need to ration that stuff out to be successful long term. I've said that earlier, that if you rush this kind of stuff, because that's going to be what they're going to you're going to want to try and capitalize on these guys as soon as you can, but you gotta space it a little bit. It'll benefit you in the long term. But the other catch here with this as well here, Karl, is twofold here. Okay. We consume our wrestling content very, very different from how we used to before. Not just you and I, just in general. A lot of people catch matches on YouTube. I'm guilty of this myself. Not guilty, it's maybe not necessarily the right word, but I consume a lot of wrestling now on a single match basis. Life is busy. I don't always get to sit down and watch an entire 2 or 3 hour program of wrestling, to be perfectly transparent with everybody. Not for a lack of wanting to, just for a lack of time. And the other factor with that too is with this younger generation. And we had talked about that where we have seen some instances of younger fans getting interested in wrestling, but with some forms of media out there, not to necessarily point the finger too much, but places like TikTok and whatnot have killed the attention span of the younger generation. So then to them to ask a group of people that consume their content in very small snippets to have them sit down for a 2, possibly 3, possibly 4, or like you want to get into like New Japan big shows like 4 and 5 hours, you're asking a lot from people who have very, very short attention span. So it's tricky to draw in that new upcoming audience because the way that they consume their social media, their other media when it comes to movies, TV, and all this kind of stuff, it's so different from when we first started being wrestling fans, like watching and trading VHS tapes and watching Raw and stuff on television. So that landscape has completely changed. So I think that the key is going to be to find whether it's characters that the audience can relate to, or just the actual nature of the content itself. Like this ultra hardcore wrestling fan or wrestling kind of stuff is not going to appeal to that younger, short attention span audience. It's just not going to, right? So that's going to be the real key kind of going forward, is to develop a wrestling product that's going to appeal to that non-wrestling fan audience or that young wrestling fan that's looking at this kind of stuff now and going, hey, well, that's kind of interesting. I mean, do I want to tune into that? Do I not? Excuse me. That's going to be the real key to grow this wrestling audience from this like 1 million to 2 million plateau that we've kind of hit with professional wrestling. Whereas like in the Attitude Era,
yes,
we were up into that 4 and 5 million. In other professional sports, we're up into double digits of million numbers, right?
Oh yeah.
So if we could find a way to really get that, then we can really leapfrog into mainstream attention in mainstream media, right? That's, I think, what the ultimate goal should be. I said a lot there.
Yeah, you definitely did, and that's okay. I 100% agree with you on every point that you made. Yeah, like it's just at some point, 100% I feel that it will get back to mainstream. It definitely will.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a pop culture phenomena again at some point. When? I don't know. My lifetime? I don't know. But at some point, it's definitely going to happen, and it is going to be a glorious day when that happens. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in to this episode number 229 of Turnbuckle Talk, where we are buzzing on speculations. We have mentioned our friends over at collarandelbowbrand.com. Again, just go check them out. Promo code JKPodcast. That's going to get you 10% off your entire purchase. Our friends over at Phoenix at fnxfit.com. You're looking for health supplements, whether it's workout supplements or even some workout gear, some shorts or some workout shirts. They got that stuff over there at fnxfit.com. Using promo code TBTalkPod is going to get you 15% off your entire purchase over there, excluding monthly rotational product. So if you go to the site and you sign up for something that is a monthly rotation at a little bit of a smaller price, unfortunately, we can't discount that for you. But if you just go and order some stuff, definitely every time you do, you can get that 15% off. Mighty Joe, please tell us what we have on deck coming up for Turnbuckle Rewind, found over on lovewrestling.ca.
Shameless merch plug there for our friends at lovewrestling.ca. Coming up this week on Turnbuckle Rewind, we have a very important, pivotal match going back to I even still remember the date, January 4th 2000. See, I messed it up. Take two, pretend it didn't happen, folks. January 4th 1999, Monday Night Raw. The at the time WWF champion The Rock versus Mankind. This is a crazy matchup and arguably one of the more important matchups modern day, because this match almost single-handedly changed the entire direction of the Monday Night War. You just have to go check it out. It includes, Karl, and everybody listening and watching, one of the loudest fan reactions. If you watch along with us on this one of the loudest fan reactions you will ever hear during a professional wrestling match. It is absolutely nuts, and it was a absolute pleasure talking about that match. It's coming out later this week over at Love Wrestling. You're not going to want to miss that one.
Definitely not. Again, thank you so much to everybody that tuned in today, for the comments that came through. Absolutely amazing. We love the interaction with our fans. We know that sometimes we're on, a little earlier in the day or a little later in the evening. Any way you slice it, we are going to be on every Monday for you guys. Thank you so much again for joining us. This is an absolute pleasure and an honor, Mighty Joe. Thank you again for the amazing curation of these topics. It is a pleasure doing this with you, and I am so thankful that we have these platforms to be able to do it.
It wasn't even that hard to really come up with this week, because, I mean, the wrestling world, so there's some weeks where it's like, it's like a slog trying to find topics, but it's like this week, the wrestling world just went, here you go. It's obvious.
That's right.
This is what you guys have to talk about. So thankfully that does happen more often than not.
Definitely. Now, if you guys are watching this and saying, hey, I think I want to do some live streams like this about something, whether it doesn't have to be professional wrestling. You could be doing cooking, you could be doing unboxings, you could be talking about Funko Pops, you could be talking about books, you could be talking about absolutely anything. If you want to do something like this, hey, I tell you what, get a hold of me. And I'm going to send you a link that you can go to that's going to give you a little bit of a discount as well on your first month. So, I mean, it's going to be absolutely amazing for everyone. You're going to get some time to be able to figure things out at a discounted price for a full month. It's going to be absolutely amazing. Cool. So if you're looking for something like that, shoot me a message on my personal page if you have me personally, or to the social media accounts at TB Talk Pod, and we will do what we can do to help you out to get you as well streaming with this amazing platform, StreamYard. Thank you very much, and we're out.
It's me. It's an honor to be the beat. As you can tell in the background, we are out celebrating. That is what we do here at hittingthemarks.com. And I invite everyone to continue to tune in to Turnbuckle Talk, but check out all of our other shows. We have weekly content, especially lit up by the flagship show. You can find that all at hittingthemarks.com.
Run.